These are the questions that echo in my mind even now, as I stand on the precipice of everything I've ever believed in. The room is filled with people who are waiting, eyes fixed on me, judging me without a single word spoken. They have already decided. I am the liar. And no matter what I say, the damage has already been done. But here's the thing. What if I told you that my version of the story wasn't the one they've been told? It started like any other day. A morning filled with the routine of life, the humdrum of conversations, the laughter that echoed in my ears. But little did I know, behind closed doors, whispers began to grow louder. They called me a liar. They claimed I betrayed them. Friends I had trusted for years, family members who were supposed to support me. Everyone turned their backs, and suddenly, I was the villain in a story I never agreed to be part of. I stood there, dumbfounded, as accusations were thrown at me like stones, each one cutting deeper than the last. The feeling of betrayal sank in my chest, each breath becoming harder to take. How did it happen? How had I gone from being their ally to becoming their enemy, someone they couldn't trust? It felt like a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. And yet, as I stood there, amidst the murmurs and stares, there was something inside me that refused to shrink. I refused to shrink. I had always believed that truth was something unbreakable, that the light of honesty would always shine through the darkness of deceit. But now, it felt like that light had been dimmed, replaced with shadows of doubt and suspicion. So what was I supposed to do? Should I cower? Apologize for something I never did? Should I retreat and leave them with their accusations, letting them mold my reputation into something it was never meant to be?
No.
I refused to let the lie define me. As I walked into that room, the air was thick with tension. They waited for me to speak, to defend myself, to justify what they had already decided was my guilt. But I didn't need to defend anything. I wasn't guilty. I wasn't a liar. And with that, I opened my mouth and said the words that would change everything. I wasn't always the person I am today. I wasn't always the one to stand tall in the face of adversity, to speak up when the world seemed to be crumbling around me. In fact, I used to be just like anyone else, trusting, hopeful, maybe even a little naive. But life, as it often does, has a way of knocking you down when you least expect it. My name is Arya, and I once believed that the world was a place where good things happen to good people. I grew up in a small town, surrounded by people who felt like family. I was always the kind of person who gave my all, whether it was to friends, family, or work. It wasn't just about doing what was right. It was about showing people that they could rely on me. Trust was something I held sacred, and in return, I expected the same from those closest to me. But not everything is as it seems, is it? We don't always get what we give. I remember one particular friendship that shaped my life in ways I never imagined. It was with Rachel, my best friend since childhood. We did everything together, shared our dreams, our fears, and our secrets. We laughed together, cried together, and made promises to each other that we swore would last forever. It was the kind of bond people wrote songs about. Rachel was my confidant, my partner in crime, the one person who I thought would never turn on me. But the seeds of doubt were planted long before the storm arrived. There were signs, little things I brushed off at first. Those odd looks, the whispers when I wasn't around, the way Rachel's smile didn't quite reach her eyes when we talked about certain people. But I was too blind to see it. After all, she was my best friend. She couldn't possibly betray me. And yet, as life has a way of revealing, betrayal comes in many forms. The first real shift came during one of the most crucial moments of my life. I had been working on a project that I believed would change everything, something that would elevate not just me, but everyone I loved. It was a risky venture, something that required trust and collaboration. And I needed Rachel's support more than anything. After all, we had been through everything together, right? But when I needed her the most, she wasn't there. At first, it seemed like just an excuse, a busy schedule, an unforeseen emergency. I didn't want to think the worst of her, so I brushed it off. Yet, the more I pushed, the more she distanced herself. Until one day, I found out that while I was working tirelessly on our project, Rachel had been working on a deal behind my back, a deal that excluded me entirely. The sting of that betrayal was sharp, but even then, I didn't see it for what it was. I tried to talk to her, tried to salvage what was left of our friendship. But instead of an apology, she became defensive, as if I was the one who had wronged her. And that was when I realized the truth wasn't what it seemed. And I, Arya, was standing in a world where the lines between truth and lies had blurred. At the same time, there was David. David was someone who I believed in with all my heart. He had been a rock for me during some of the hardest times of my life. But his loyalty, too, would be tested, just like Rachel's. David was there when I had no one else, when I was at my lowest, and when I needed reassurance that everything would be okay. But as the project with Rachel grew more complicated, David's stance wavered, and soon enough, he was siding with Rachel, supporting her version of events. That was when the walls started closing in. I began to question everything, my friendships, my choices, my instincts. How had I been so blind? How had I missed the signs? The betrayal of my closest confidants wasn't just a personal blow, it was a reflection of something deeper within me. Something I hadn't wanted to face. It wasn't just the people who turned their backs on me that hurt, it was the realization that I had placed my trust in the wrong people. I had loved and believed in them, and yet, they had thrown me under the bus at the first opportunity. But the real test came when I had to stand up for myself. When the lies started to circulate and I was accused of things I never did, I realized that there was only one thing left to do. I had to face the storm head-on, and I couldn't do it alone. That's when I made the decision. I would walk in, confront the people who had already decided my fate, and I would speak the truth. Even if they didn't believe me. Even if it meant losing everything. The day everything began to spiral out of control started just like any other. But the moment I walked into that room, my entire world shifted. The air felt thick, like the walls themselves were closing in on me. Every eye in the room was fixed on me, each person waiting for me to speak, for me to defend myself. I could feel the weight of their judgment, the unspoken words lingering in the silence. At first, I tried to remain calm, to collect myself. But the tension in the room was palpable, like a storm about to break. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, a steady drum of nervousness and anticipation. My palms were clammy, my throat dry, but I pushed those feelings aside. I had no choice but to face them. To face the accusations that had been thrown at me like daggers, to confront the people who had already declared me guilty, without so much as a second thought. It all started with Rachel's words. The moment I had heard what she said behind my back, I had been shaken. It wasn't just the lies. It was the way she had turned my efforts into something malicious, something twisted. I had always supported her, always been there for her when she needed me, but now, she had painted me as the villain. And not just in front of a few people, but to the entire community that once saw me as trustworthy. It was as though she had convinced everyone that I was someone unrecognizable, a stranger in my own life. The lies were small at first, innocent even. Little things she twisted about our shared history, the moments that had bonded us. But over time, those lies grew. The whispers started to get louder, until they reached a point where I could no longer ignore them. Rachel's version of events had become the truth to everyone around me, and I was powerless to stop it. David, of course, was caught up in it all. The same David who had once been my closest confidant. The one who had seen me at my lowest. He was the one who turned the story around, who began questioning my every word, my every action. The one who I had trusted with my heart. He was the one who was now standing by Rachel's side, offering her the same support he had once given me. And just like that, I was alone. The room was silent as I walked in, my mind racing with everything that had led up to this moment. How had I ended up here? How had I become the one who was to blame for everything? But none of that mattered now. The only thing that mattered was what I would say, what I would do. There was no turning back. The first words came out like a quiet whisper, but they were enough to send a ripple through the crowd. I didn't lie. It was simple but powerful. The truth was simple. It didn't need any embellishment, no explanations. But the moment I said those words, the room erupted. You didn't lie? Rachel's voice was filled with incredulity, as though she couldn't believe I had the nerve to speak. You expect us to believe that after everything you've done? I expect you to believe me because I have nothing to hide, I responded, my voice growing steadier. I could feel the eyes on me, the disbelief, the accusation. But I couldn't back down now. David, too, spoke up. Arya, this isn't just about you. It's about all of us. You've hurt people. You've let us down. His words stung, but I wasn't going to let them break me. You've betrayed us. It was a blow I hadn't seen coming. Not from David. He knew me better than anyone. And yet, here he was, standing with Rachel, ready to condemn me. It was almost as if the entire world had turned against me, and I was the one being called a traitor. But in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about defending myself anymore. This wasn't just about clearing my name. This was about standing up for the truth, no matter the cost. This was about showing them that I was not the person they had decided I was. I didn't betray anyone, I said, my voice growing louder. I've worked hard for everything I have, and I've never lied to any of you. If you want to believe that about me, that's your choice. But I know the truth. And that's something none of you can take away. The room fell into stunned silence. For a moment I thought they might understand. But then the accusations came again, this time even more forcefully. You're the one who has deceived us all, Rachel snapped, her eyes blazing with anger. You're the one who's been lying from the very beginning. You've manipulated everyone, and now you expect us to believe that you're the victim? It was as though I had become the scapegoat for everything that had gone wrong. All of Rachel's failures, all of David's disappointments had somehow been attributed to me. And no matter how many times I told the truth, no matter how many times I spoke with conviction, they weren't listening. The more I tried to explain, the more they pushed back. It was as if every word I said was just another lie in their eyes. They weren't interested in hearing me. They had already made up their minds. And yet, even in the face of all this, I stood my ground. I knew that the truth would eventually come to light. It had to. The lies couldn't last forever. But the question remained, how long would I have to fight? How long could I stand alone before the weight of their accusations crushed me? As the days passed, the weight of the accusations became harder to bear. It wasn't just the harsh words that stung, it was the silence that followed. The absence of the people I had once trusted most. The emptiness that lingered in their eyes every time they passed me in the hallway. It felt as though I was slowly fading from their lives, as if I no longer existed in their world. Rachel's words echoed in my mind over and over again. You've betrayed us. You've hurt people. They were simple, but they had grown into something far more dangerous in my mind. Those words had become the weapon used to strip away everything I had built. Every relationship, every moment of trust had been shattered by a single lie, a lie that Rachel had crafted and planted in the minds of those I loved. The truth, though, was always just beneath the surface. I could feel it, burning in my chest, aching to be revealed. But no matter how many times I spoke, no matter how many times I stood in front of them, the walls seemed to grow higher. Their minds were made up, or so it seemed. But there was a moment, just one brief moment, that shifted everything. It came when I least expected it. I had been walking home, head down, lost in thought, when I saw David standing in front of me. The last time I had seen him, he had turned his back on me. He had sided with Rachel, and I hadn't seen him since. But now, as I stood there, watching him, I saw something in his eyes that I hadn't seen before. Doubt. Arya, he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. Can we talk? For a moment, I didn't know how to react. The words caught in my throat. I had spent so many nights replaying our conversations in my head, wondering if he ever believed in me, if he had ever really cared. And now, standing here in front of me, he was asking to talk. I didn't know what to say, but I knew I couldn't walk away from this. Not now. Not when the truth was so close to being exposed. I'm listening, I replied, my voice steady, though my heart was pounding in my chest. David hesitated for a moment, then spoke. I don't know what to believe anymore, Arya. His words were heavy with guilt. I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened, and I realize now that maybe I've been blind. The words hit me harder than I expected. For months, I had felt as though David was lost to me, that there was no chance of ever getting through to him. But here he was, admitting that he was unsure, that he had doubts about Rachel's version of events. "I never meant to hurt you," I said softly, taking a step closer to him. "I've always told the truth, David, and I'm still telling it now." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and confusion. "I know you are, Arya. I couldn't see it before. I was so angry, so hurt by everything that was happening. And I thought, no, I wanted to believe Rachel." I shook my head, trying to make him understand. "David, I never lied to you. Not about anything. But I can't change what you believe or what Rachel has made you think. All I can do is stand here and tell you the truth. And it's up to you whether you want to believe it or not." The silence between us was thick, heavy with the weight of everything unsaid. I could feel my heart aching, not just for the betrayal, but for the man who had once been my best friend, my closest ally. I had never wanted this. I had never wanted to push him away, to make him choose between me and Rachel. But somehow it had come to this. David took a deep breath, his eyes searching mine. "I don't know if I can fix everything that's broken, Arya, but I'm willing to try. I'm willing to fight for the truth. For you." Those words were like a lifeline thrown to me in the middle of a storm. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the truth would be enough to break through the walls that had been built around me. Over the next few days, the confrontation with Rachel was inevitable. It was time to face her, to finally end the lies that had been poisoning everything. It wasn't going to be easy, but I had to do it. For myself. For David. For the people who still believed in me. The day came, and I walked into the room where Rachel was waiting. Her eyes flickered with recognition when she saw me, but there was no warmth, no sign of the woman who had once been my friend. There was only coldness, a distance that I had never expected to feel between us. "Arya," she said, her voice sharp. "What do you want?" "I want the truth to come out, Rachel," I said, my voice steady despite the anger rising in my chest. "I want everyone to know that I've never lied. And I want you to admit that you've been spreading lies about me. It's time to stop this." Her lips curled into a sneer. "You think anyone's going to believe you? You've already lost, Arya. No one cares about the truth anymore." But I wasn't backing down. They will. Because the truth has a way of coming out, no matter how hard you try to bury it. The confrontation that followed was explosive. The lies that Rachel had woven began to unravel in front of everyone. It wasn't just about her anymore, it was about all the damage she had done, all the people she had hurt with her deceit. As the truth came to light, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. The relief was overwhelming. And as Rachel's facade cracked, so did the barrier between David and me. He stood by my side, his presence a reminder that sometimes even the deepest wounds could heal. By the end of it all, Rachel had been exposed for what she truly was, a manipulator who had used lies to gain power over others. But the most powerful realization was that, through all the pain, I had stood strong. The truth had set me free. As the dust settled and the truth was finally laid bare, I couldn't help but reflect on everything that had happened. The journey had been grueling, full of betrayal, pain, and moments when I questioned my own strength. But through it all, I had learned something powerful. The truth, no matter how long it takes, will always find its way to the surface. It is the light that cuts through the darkest of lies, the strength that holds us steady when everything else is crumbling around us. Standing there, amidst the wreckage of my past, I realized that I wasn't the same person I had been before. The Arya who had walked into that room full of doubt and fear was no longer the same one who walked out. I was stronger. I was braver. And most importantly, I had learned that I was worthy of being believed, no matter how many times I was told otherwise. Now, as I stand at the edge of a new beginning, I am faced with a question that I know I must answer. What will I do next? Will I move forward with the lessons I've learned, Or will I remain trapped in the past, defined by the lies of others? The truth is, there's only one way to move forward, and that's to embrace the freedom that comes with standing in your truth. To anyone who is out there, struggling with the weight of false accusations, with the fear of being misunderstood, remember this: your truth is your power. No one can take that away from you. It may take time, it may require you to stand alone for a while, but in the end, the truth will set you free. And those who matter will see you for who you truly are. What will you choose, truth or silence? The world may try to silence you, but the truth cannot be ignored forever. Trust in yourself, trust in your voice, and never be afraid to speak up, no matter the cost. In the end, it was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I was never wrong to trust in my own integrity. And as I walked away, I knew that this was just the beginning. The journey would continue, but now, with the clarity that I had earned, I could face whatever challenges lay ahead.